The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. I'm Andy McNeil, and joining me as always, Nick Martin, here to break down this 5-game slate in the NHL on Wednesday. It is April 2nd, finally past April Fools. I try to stay off the internet on April Fools because, I'm a fool. So I tend to get a little excited sometimes when I see things before really thinking it through, right? So happy to be past that dreadful date. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm tired. Our men's league team pulled off an upset in our first playoff game last night, which would probably be about the same as Chicago winning tonight. So, yeah,
An upset. Who's
that was
making the
nice.
odds for your
If
men's
I
league?
was making them, they would be long because we were at the bottom of the division, but beat the team that won last year. So, yeah, that was
Oh,
good.
wow.
And then Calgary got absolutely pissed on last night. I don't know if you saw, I could barely see driving home. So,
No, I didn't.
yeah, it ended up being a pretty late one, but other than that, doing good.
Yeah, it's still a little bit, I guess, too cold to rain here right now. Although we are looking up. Snow should melt really soon. We got one of our biggest dumps of the season last week. I mean, it was snowed for a day and a half, 2 days, and I think it was probably arguably the biggest snowfall of the winter. Right at the end of March, which is never nice. But anyways, let's get into today's slate. I do have one of the games I think we are kind of consensus on what the right play is, but let's start with the two that are the two earlier games, the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm a bit pissed off at the Capitals, Nick. I mean, two goal leads last night, couldn't hold on to cover that puck line. But unfortunately, Ovechkin did score another goal. He's just 4 away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal scoring record. So it certainly looks like it's going to happen this season. The odds also suggest it'll happen. I believe he is minus 280 at Bet365 right now to break the record this season. So what do you think of the Capitals' performance last night, and what do you like tonight in this game versus the Hurricanes?
Yeah, that was kind of more or less the going rate for them a little bit lately. There's been definitely a little bit of lack of urgency in their game. I think you can see flashes of the talent, but definitely been kind of hit or miss overall.
Yeah.
I thought Leonard made a pretty good debut. He didn't get any shots or record a goal, so the props struck out, but I watched pretty intently and I actually thought all his touches were pretty good. Got a little involved physically, did play a pretty big role on the Strome goal in the third too, even though he didn't get credited with a goal there. So I was happy with his debut. I think when the odds populate on all the sites, I might end up backing him again because it just seemed like it didn't quite fall for him offensively. I thought, if anything, Protas actually had a really bad night. He had messed up a lot of pretty simple plays early on. It felt like that line just didn't quite get going. But I thought it was a pretty positive debut for him overall. I feel like still pretty confident that he's going to be able to, make a difference here down the stretch. So really tough matchup tonight, obviously, versus Carolina. I think given how much the odds have swung at this point, I don't really feel like there's a play either way. If anything, I'm actually a little tempted in just betting the Caps and hoping for kind of one of their better performances in a while. They're sitting at plus 180, so getting pretty steep. But yeah, I do have a prop on this Canes game that I like. You can bet Taylor Hall to get 3 shots at plus 146. I think that's a pretty good look. We've been all over Hall in the prop market since he got to Carolina. Starting to get a little more coverage, just how good he's been. But he's, over the last 20 games, he's gone over 2.5 and 11 of 20. And that's obviously a pretty strong number when you're talking about a plus 146 prop here. Leads the team in shots per 60, leads the team in shot attempts per 60 in that span, and he's looked really good. So I think you could target any prop involving him in the prop markets here. I think that this isn't the worst matchup by any means. The Caps have been pretty average defensively recently, traveling back to back. So I think it's not a bad spot at all. And he's not getting a ton of ice time, but the second line's been really good, and he's skating on the top power play unit, which has also looked really good recently. So I like that Hall prop. I think we'll see him have an impact on this game, and I feel like we're getting a good number.
Yeah, Jordan Staal going to miss his second straight game for the Hurricanes tonight. That has been confirmed. Speaking of debuts, Ryan Leonard made his NHL debut last night, and Gabe Perreault going to make his debut for the New York Rangers. He is the number 20, or he was the number 23 pick in the 2023 draft. 19 years old, scored 16 goals and 32 assists in 37 games for Boston College this season in the NCAA. He also put up 3 goals and 7 assists in 7 games at the 2025 World Junior Championship. Looks like he got a good spot in the lineup, but this is a big matchup for both teams. I mean, not as dire of a situation for the Minnesota Wild. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games, and they've slipped to the second wild card spot in the Western Conference as a result. I mean, the Blues have been red hot, winning 10 in a row, so they have leapfrogged the Wild. But they're still 6 points ahead of the Calgary Flames. Minnesota is, so not too terrible of a situation. Certainly not where they probably thought they'd be, given that they were, leading the Central Division in early December. But obviously, injuries have played a big role in the team's downfall this season. They're still missing a couple of key players, but it looks like things are kind of heading in the right direction in respect to that. They've got forward Kirill Kaprizov. He's obviously been out for a while, hasn't played since January 26th, but he's back practicing with the team. He does have a checkup with the doctor. Might have had it already, but it was slated for this week sometime. And he's still week to week though, so he's not going to be joining or rejoining the Wild lineup on this road trip. I saw some outlets have him listed out until April 6th, so we'll see where he is in a few days' time. And also Joel Eriksson Ek is also practicing, but like Kaprizov, he's still listed week to week. I believe he's missed 17 straight games. And he's not going to play on the road trip either. So no surprise that this has had a big impact on the Wild's offensive play. And they've taken a big hit in that regard as a result. I mean, they've been the lowest scoring team in the league for the last 2 months or more. And they've posted the 7th worst goal differential in all situations. And yeah, it's just not looking good offensively right now for the Wild. They rank 25th in expected goals percentage and 31st in shot share at 5-on-5 since the start of February. So just, all around not playing very well right now. The Rangers, this is a much bigger game for them after the Canadians took down the Panthers last night and got another 2 points. They are now 2 points back of the Canadians for the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 9 of their last 13 games. So it's kind of self-inflicted, or, actually it is self-inflicted on the part of the Rangers. They do have a 2-day rest advantage here versus the Wild. So that could serve them well. I mean, home teams have won approximately 60% of the games when they have more rest than their opponents this season. So that is significant for sure. They've also done pretty good against the Wild, winning 4 of their last 5. Obviously, they only meet twice a year though, so take that with a grain of salt. And they've been close games as well. 3 of the last 5 meetings between these two teams have gone to overtime or a shootout. In fact, 5 of the last 10 meetings between these two teams have gone to overtime or a shootout. The Rangers have also struggled at 5-on-5 here, ranked 29th in expected goals percentage since March 1st. But they've been much better offensively in all situations. They ranked 12th in goals per 60 minutes since the start of February. But they've scored just 7.1% of their power play opportunities over the last month, which ranks as the worst mark in the league during that time. So, yeah, I mean, not a lot of incentive here to bet either team, especially not the Rangers at the minus 160 price point. But, both of these teams have had a hard time suppressing shots. They both rank among the bottom 10 teams in shots against per 60 minutes. And so I'm looking at Ryan Hartman to go over 2.5 shots on goal at plus 130 at Bet365. It's the best price available since returning to the lineup on March 4th. He has led the Wild in shots on goal. It's kind of been, a Matt Boldy show in that regard all season long. But he's registered 3 or more shots on goal in 10 of his last 15 games. So I think this is a really good bet at plus 130. His ice time is kind of up and down, but he has been, getting more than his fair share of ice time as of late. So I think that's a pretty good look at plus 130 odds.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Pro in this game. I still remember watching that draft and just being in shock as he dropped to 23rd, I think it was. And as a Rangers hater, just being like, what the hell is going on here? Because I don't think it was hindsight 2020 that he was going to be better than like 5 or 6 of the guys drafted in front of him. And now that looks very likely to be the case. So, yeah, I maybe he'll provide a boost for the New York. It's been pretty pathetic from the Rangers. You kind of said it. I bet them to make the playoffs at plus 170 right around the time of the Miller trade. And if you showed me the point totals of the teams that were in the wild card race at this point, I would have thought that was the greatest bet ever. But the Rangers have been bad enough that still might not get home. So,
I mean, to be fair, everybody in the Eastern Conference wildcard race, it's like hot potato. Who doesn't, who wants to make the playoffs? Nobody
Every
wants
time
it.
someone gets a stranglehold, they lose it to you. And the Wild too, it's going to be interesting to see their next stretch here because they're obviously underdogs tonight. They play back-to-back. They got the Islanders tomorrow, and then they got the Stars, and then they have a back-to-back on the road versus the Flames and Canucks. So those 2 teams could do each a favor and get some wins in that and make it a little interesting. So yeah, they've got a pretty big cushion, but they're definitely the more catchable team, I think, now with the way the Blues are going right now. If anything, the Blues look more like a contender than a team that's about to slow down. So, yeah, I think I'm kind of hoping the Wild will lose this game, to be honest, just from a futures perspective, and hoping that the Flames and Canucks can kind of hang around in that race. But yeah, I didn't really have too much else on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went 0-4 last night. 0-4, pretty bad night for me in the picks department. I know I wasn't tracking exactly how you were doing, but I know you made a great call on that Columbus Blue Jackets game.
Yeah, I got
rocking chair winner on the Columbus money line, plus the over on that one for plus 150. So what else did you have go right for you?
Yeah, I ended up slightly. I ended up adding quite a few there. Had that Kings pick come through for us. They were looking pretty good. I thought that was a really good look. Felt like, if anything, that number was closer than it should have been just because of what the Jets have done this season. But I think with the guys out of the lineup, and the Jets have really looked a lot more average offensively lately. So got that one, but the props weren't good there. Leonard did nothing. I ended up adding Cousins to get 3 shots there too, and he finished with 2. And then Zetterlund didn't score. So prop market wasn't good, but that Columbus over call and the Kings money line got there at least.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to turn things around tonight with a couple of picks. First being, like I said, Ryan Hartman, 3+ shots on goal at plus 130. That's at Bet365. And the other one, the Maple Leafs money line, which I know you are on as well. This one has moved around a little bit. We'll talk about that here shortly, but. This, as interesting as the wild card races have been, this race for the Atlantic Division crown is pretty interesting as well. Just 2 points separating the Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Florida Panthers, so that makes this matchup pretty high stakes here. They've all played 74 games. Toronto is currently in the lead with 94 points. Florida 92 after they earned a point in that overtime loss on Tuesday. But this is a big one for both teams. The Panthers had defeated the Maple Leafs in 7 of the last 10 meetings, including the playoffs, and that includes the last 3 regular season matchups. They're 2-0 versus the Maple Leafs so far this season. They won 5-1 on November 27th and 3-2 on March 13th. And Wednesday's game is one of 2 remaining meetings between these 2 clubs here, as Florida is going to host Toronto on April 8th after they return from this 4-game road trip. So the Panthers, I mean, they've been kind of struggling lately, and the Maple Leafs have looked pretty good. They've won 6 of their last 8 games. They've got a 2-day rest advantage here. So that puts them in a good position to win their 3rd in a row. But I think it's worth noting that Sergei Bobrovsky is also coming off 2 days rest. And he's been pretty good as of late. Hasn't had the greatest season, when you look at the underlying metrics, but I mean, he is 31-16-2 this season, 2.44 goals against average and 907 save percentage. But going back to February 27th, he's gone 8-3 with a 1.72 goals against average and a 923 save percentage. So he's definitely turned it on. But offense has been a big issue for the Panthers over the last month. They ranked 29th in goals per 60 minutes. And Toronto, I mean, has been pretty good on offense in seventh spot since the start of March. But of course, the Panthers are still one of the best defensive teams in the league, while the Maple Leafs are kind of struggling in that regard, although they have been quite a bit better as of late over this last 8-game stretch or so. But they still rank 21st in goals against per 60 minutes since the beginning of March. So this one has moved quite a bit. I mean, the Maple Leafs are up there in the -120, -125 range earlier today, but it has since come down. A lot of books now have this one at a pick'em, -110 on each side. But if you shop around, you can get -105 or better. Looks like Bet365, it was at -105 just a little while ago, but has moved back up to -110 on both sides here. So talk to me a little bit why you like the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I bet the Leafs at -120, so didn't get good value, but I still think that's where it should have been. I still think they should be an even bigger favorite than that. I haven't been that sold on Leafs play. We've talked about it defensively. Their numbers have been pretty bad. I think it's kind of fair to question, if systematically Berube has improved the team defensively. If you dive into all the numbers from last season, at this point, they were a better defensive team. And even in goals against, they're actually sitting in a worse standing in the league. So, and that's with significantly better goaltending. I don't think anyone could argue that. So I haven't been that sold on the Leafs, but this is a really good spot. And I still feel like at full health, they should be a little better than they've shown recently. Max Pacioretty is the only notable out of the lineup. And the Panthers are playing 3 and 4 here and back-to-back. You've talked a lot about how well home teams have fared with a scheduling edge over visiting road teams. And I think this is a good time to play into that. And the Panthers have taken some steps backward recently as well, with the most notable thing being the Seth Jones edition has been really bad. He's playing alongside Forsling right now. And obviously for the Panthers, the Forsling pairing has typically been one of the greatest reasons that they're as good a team as they are. But with Jones, Forsling and Jones hold 48% expected goal share. More importantly, have been outscored 6-4. So if that top pairing is going to be a weakness compared to, as much of a strength as it has been for all of the last 2 seasons, I think that really downgrades the Panthers. So, I think you look at that concern, and then obviously you talked about the offense has kind of come down to earth here. I think they're starting to miss Tkachuk a little bit. So, yeah, I feel like all in all, considering the rest advantage, the fact that Toronto's fully healthy and that the Panthers are looking much more mortal right now, I think this is a good time to bet the Leafs. If anything, I feel like, they're kind of suspect underlying profile the last little bit here is keeping this number closer than I think it would be. So, yeah, I feel like this is a good time to back the Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, that opening price, I wasn't as interested, but after this line move, I think there's enough incentive here to back the Leafs at -110. So I'll do that as well.
And the other thing I should kind of note too about the Leafs play, and the power play heater will probably come down to earth, obviously to some extent, but they rank 3rd in terms of power play success rate this month. And I think everyone has, kind of been surprised over the last 2 years whenever the power play has struggled, because you look at the talent on the unit, there's really no excuse for that not to be a strength. It was a huge reason your Bruins knocked the Leafs out last year, because I think if anything, the Leafs probably owned a lot more of the play in that series, but they had 1 power play goal or whatever it was. It might've been 0. And given the way those games were played, that kind of really sewered them. So I think that could be a huge advantage tonight too, if the power play can stay hot. And this game obviously should be pretty closely contested. So that's another positive going on.
Please don't call them my Bruins. I'm a Red Sox fan only now.
They've kind of had a disappointing start too. But it's early. I thought they would be better this year.
But anyway, that pretty much does it for the hockey talk on this show, unless you've got something to say about the other two matchups. Of course, you'll be covering the Seattle Kraken at the Vancouver Canucks for Canucks Army later today, and we've also got the Avalanche and the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, not much to say there with the spread on this one. The Avs are a big minus 390 money line favorite here.
Yeah, I think the time to bet the Avs was yesterday. It felt like it looked a little like they probably deserved to be an even bigger favorite, but it actually has moved a ton overnight. The Avs were minus 345 some places yesterday, so people have been pretty high on them bouncing back after a pretty shocking loss to the Flames. And yeah, the Canucks game, I was thinking I'm going to end up on a prop here because I didn't really see much in terms of sides. You look at the shorthanded Canucks roster, they've found a way to play pretty respectably. Their underlying results have improved, but I still think talent-wise, if anything, right now the Kraken actually have a little more going for them. So I'm not really sold on the Canucks at this kind of number. I think if anything, it's got a little bit of can't lose baked into the price.
Yeah, and as far as our other Wednesday show, Future Files, we are going to be putting that on pause for probably a couple of weeks here because the futures markets, I mean, in all things considered, you should have your futures portfolio pretty built up at this point. There's not a whole lot to talk about. A lot of the markets have sort of been, kind of wiped clean. Even, you look at the awards markets, the favorites are the favorites, some of them pretty big favorites, so much so that you've got markets like Cale Makar versus the field, Alexander Barkov versus the field in the Selke trophy race and the Norris for Makar and things like that. So not a lot to talk about that there. Maybe a little bit more come playoff time once we get some of the first round matchups, playoff series odds, things like that. But yeah, right now, probably best to just put that on hold for a couple of weeks. But that pretty much does it, like I said, for the hockey talk. But I do want to get your thoughts, and we'll try to. I think Jake might be a little bit behind here on the White Lotus talk. So I don't know. I want to try to stay away from the spoilers. But you've watched all 3 seasons of White Lotus, right?
Yeah, I have. And I don't watch much TV. I watch so much hockey that I kind of just limit my try to keep my screen time somewhat reasonable. But I absolutely love the White Lotus. I can't wait for the finale on Sunday. It's been like the only show I've watched kind of through and through in the last bit. So
it's a good show and great cast as well. I think right now, and maybe things can change with the finale coming up on Sunday, but I think right now it would be in the 3 spot for me as far as my favorite season. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I enjoyed the first 2 seasons a little bit more, I think. But I mean, I don't know. I do enjoy. Like, I think it's, I don't know. I think it's taking and I know the other seasons have gone this way too. And I mean, the writing has been good and all that. I just think it's taking a little bit too much time for the finale is going to be absolutely insane because everything is going to have to culminate in the final episode because there's still a lot of unanswered questions, right? I thought we were going to get more in last week's episode than we did as far as kind of some answers, some closure on some things. Or at least kind of have a little bit of an idea of where the direction's going to go. But it's still looking, there's still a lot of uncertainty, I guess, heading into this last episode. But who's your favorite character and who's your least favorite character?
Okay, favorite character I think is probably Walton Goggins, right? Least favorite,
I don't know. I like his buddy.
Yeah.
God, I always forget.
I mean, there's a lot of hateable people this season, right?
Sam Rockwell, yes, and it's such an easy name to remember. He's actually with the blonde girl with the short hair of the 3 women.
Oh, and Chelsea
together.
Yeah, I really like Chelsea too. I feel like she's pretty dope. But I mean, yeah, I feel like not a lot to like about this season. Or in terms of characters, I feel like you're not necessarily made to root for many of them.
No, for sure. It's a cast full of unredeemable.
Oh, and Belinda. Characters. I guess Belinda's probably one of the more through and through likable ones. I think she's kind of
Yeah.
the only one that's like a truly
I
good
I
person.
didn't necessarily mean like who do you like,
Yeah,
but
like
like what
who's
character do you
enjoyable.
enjoy watching the most? I
Yeah.
think Parker Posey's done a great job being the, doped up, drunk, rich mom kind of character, right? I think she's been great this season.
I think the
Um,
cast has killed it. I know
yeah.
there was even like Schwarzenegger. I think he's done really good. I've seen some people
Yeah.
crying about nepotism, but I think
Oh,
he did a
whatever.
really good job with his role. So whatever, those people can keep
I mean, I do
running.
I do agree like that like when it comes to nepo babies, it's like don't fight it, just accept it. Like O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube's son. I saw last week somebody said something to him on Twitter like, you're just a nepo baby, blah blah blah. And he's like, "Are you trying to own me by saying my life has been easy? I know it's been easy, you
Yeah.
dumbass." Right?
Literally
Like,
everyone in like every walk of life, or I shouldn't say everyone, but so many people that have this kind of success got a break somewhere
yeah,
along the line. Like it is what it is. It's like the same thing as all this stupid Zach Hyman crap saying, whoever came out and said his dad bought his way into the league and he had every break. Like, yeah, that's a lot of pro athletes. There's not really that many come from
yeah.
nothing stories, especially in the NHL. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole subculture or subgenre of hockey content out there making parody skits of dads trying to like pay off hockey scouts at rinks, right? So
yeah.
it's
And
like
I mean, there is some of that for sure. Like obviously people getting breaks, kids making teams when they probably shouldn't because of
yeah,
politics is a huge part of it. But I mean, that's kind of the way the world goes. So it's
for
just one
sure.
more thing
Yeah.
for people to cry about.
So who's your least favorite character then?
Uh
I want to see if we can like I'm
I
not
kind
really
of
sure
think
who my
like
favorite character is. I know who my least favorite character is.
I think Saxon maybe, right? Or no, Tim, I guess. Tim's pretty hard to like. Like I feel like he's had every opportunity to kind of start trying to sort this out and he's just digging the hole. So yeah, I think maybe Tim. I still feel like he's been entertaining and I think well acted,
Yeah.
but I feel like he's pretty easy to hate. Oh, and
I'm kind of
Greg.
wondering if
Can't,
he's gonna
can't
just
forget
like
about Greg.
stay in Thailand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel a little bit. I've started to like sympathize with his character a little bit over the last couple episodes because he's like realizing like my wife and my son don't even want to live anymore if I'm not successful. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean his wife, I guess too. Like
yeah,
you said, really entertaining and
yeah,
very well acted, but I do feel like
easy
she's
to hate.
also so hateable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my least favorite character, and this might come as a surprise, but it's and I'm gonna mispronounce his name because I don't think I'm gonna pronounce it the right way as they would in Thailand. But Gaitak.
Yeah,
Uh,
really? Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean he's a simp.
You can't sort his shit out.
Uh, Two, he's a wimp. I'm not trying to rhyme here, but like he's just like you, dude. You left the firearm like on the desk to walk
Yeah,
this
that was
girl
tilting.
to her the start of her shift. Like it's just like he just keeps getting himself into these this ridiculous spot, right? And I think obviously he's got the redemption arc coming. I think that's been
Yeah,
made pretty clear.
well, I wouldn't be
Like,
surprised if it goes either way. Like there's
yeah,
obviously gonna be something in the finale where he has to, there's gonna be some kind of moment where he has to either sack up and come through in some fashion or just kind of stay being a coward. So
yeah, true
we'll
enough.
see how that goes. But I wouldn't
Yeah,
shock me, like given the way the
maybe
show's
he'll
kind of been
maybe
written.
he'll perish as a hero.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
yeah, no, it's just I mean I'm just getting so frustrated. Like I get secondhand like frustration watching his character where I'm just like, dude, like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. That was like when Tim was talking to his son last episode. Not to give any more
Yeah, yeah.
spoilers, but I had kind of the same thought. Like, come on, man.
For sure. Well, anyways, I'm looking forward to the finale. I think it'll be good. I think it could, you know, maybe help the show climb the rankings a little bit. Um, but I guess I just miss Stifler's mom, right? I mean, I think she was so good in the first two seasons that uh, I guess I just miss her. So, but anyway, that does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. Let us know your thoughts on White Lotus in the comments. And we'll be back on Thursday to break down another big slate in the NHL. But until then, good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.